In the words of Fernando Mendoza, what a flippin' game. As he said at the end, holy cow, that was one of the best football games I've seen in a long, long time. Indiana comes out with the victory, 13-10. The SEC people are trying to say, oh, it was boring. There's too much defense. Those were the two best defenses in the country. Those were the two best quarterbacks in the country. That was the best game of the season, and I am fired up, ready to talk about this thing because it was so much fun to watch. Zach, what's your instant reaction?
Man, that was awesome. Like we're both Buckeye fans, but it was an excellent game. I had a number of people watching it downstairs. They're actually leaving as we're doing this show. It was a great game. And Fernando Mendoza, if he's not the Heisman winner, like, forget the Heisman. Who cares about the Heisman at this point? That dude has ice in his veins. He played lights out. I know it says 13 on the scoreboard, but it was the situational awareness. It was big play after big play, getting back up. It started with that first shot Caden Curry had on him, right? He gets back up, back in the next play. Dude was awesome. And Julian Sayin had a rough game, but he was learning and he was maturing throughout the game. And I think that's the thing. Like, there's a lot we'll talk about both sides. We talk about winners first, but I think if you're Ohio State, you're like, don't be discouraged. But you're curious about where they go from here. If you're Indiana, oh my gosh, that's awesome.
It's the best team in the country, hands down. Indiana is the best team in the country. Nobody can argue it. Nobody can fight about it. I mean, you just watch that football game right there. Ohio State has dominated everybody this season. Maybe not, Texas. It was a touchdown game, but still, it was 14-0 when Texas scored in that game. They've dominated everybody this season. They could not dominate the Hoosiers. I think, I made a video about it on Friday, and I got a ton of crap for it in the comments because everybody said, oh, no, Ohio State, they don't care about drama. They're always focused. At a certain point, you got enough drama going on. You can't focus on it. And Ryan Day and the Buckeyes did not look nearly as prepared. They did not look nearly as physical as, I hate to bring that physical stuff back up because it just feels like, I don't want to be calling them soft. They're not soft. Indiana's just that good of a team. But they did not come in as well prepared offensively for what Indiana threw at them. Defensively, Julian Sayin was seeing ghosts out there, and that's because I just want to call everybody in Indiana the best right now. Bryant Haynes, best defense coordinator in the country. Kirk Cinetti, best head coach in the country. Fernando Mendoza, best quarterback in the country. On FanDuel right now, Fernando Mendoza is minus 3,000 to win the Heisman Trophy, and it should be minus 4,000. It should be minus 5,000 at this point because Fernando Mendoza is winning that Heisman Trophy, and the only thing that can stop it at this point is if all the Southern people voted before the award. And if they did, screw them. They should all lose their votes. Every single one of them.
Absolutely.
Booger McFarland too. Booger McFarland said he's watched one Ohio State game this season. How many Indiana games has he watched? If he only watched one Ohio State, I bet he hasn't watched any Indiana. Sorry, I had to talk about that at one point, but Holy cow, what a game, what a win for Indiana. A statement coming back. The Oregon win was a statement. But this feels like 10 times a statement based off what happened last season. Don't you think, Zach?
Well, it's the first time they've beat Ohio State since 1988. It's their first outright Big Ten title since World War II, or I think in that era. They beat the number one team in the country. I don't think have they ever done that in their history?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen any stats on that or anything, but Max sent us a super chat earlier, so I need to not forget that. And I think, yep, that's what it was. Okay. Max says, nobody beats Indiana 31 times in a row. Nobody. That's exactly right there, Max. Oh, my gosh. What a game. We got some people in here saying, I know you guys are Ohio State fans. You're going to be disappointed. I'm not disappointed at all. Like you said, that we grew up Ohio State fans and stuff like that. But, man, at the end of the day, I just love good football. Of course, I want the Buckeyes to win, but I unless you're just a diehard Buckeye and that's all you care about, and I get that. There's plenty of Buckeye fans out there like that. I don't understand how you can't watch this game and maybe not in the moment because you're feeling the pain of the loss, but you can't watch this game and be like, this is an amazing story. Everything that Indiana has been through, their history, what Kirk Cinetti has done, the turnaround here in Indiana. It's like nothing. like even Clemson, the turnaround there, like yeah, Clemson was down in the gutters, but this feels so much
Not the
bigger than that.
same. It's not the same.
With how
Well,
quickly it happened too.
yeah. How quickly and like historically how bad Indiana had been, right? Like
Hmm.
they brought it up on the graphic. Second losingest program has the second most losses in college football history. How fitting was it that they knocked off the team that has the second most wins in college football history? By the way, tonight, first time in the Hoosiers history that they have ever beaten a number one ranked team.
Wow, whole lot of first tonight
Yeah.
with what's going on.
But I loved the reaction of Mendoza afterwards, like genuinely confident, but also like overcome with emotion. Man, I hate that Ohio State lost, but this Hoosier team is so much of what honestly, this is why we wanted expansion.
Hmm.
It's teams like this because everybody will say Indiana didn't deserve to be there last year. But you know what? Last year leads to this year. That's why expansion needed to happen. And for all the haters who are like, it was perfect at 4, no, it wasn't, because this is the progress from year 1 to year 2.
Does Indiana get Mendoza if there was a 14 playoff last year?
Maybe, but I don't know if it's definitive, because if Mendoza wants to go to a playoff contender and Indiana has no way in, like I think you can make a pretty strong case that he doesn't.
Yeah, and I mean Miami was going after him too, right? I mean Miami's most likely not going to be in the playoffs. We'll get to that here in a little bit, but Miami's most likely not going to make the playoffs. And they would have had the brand to say, well, we can make a 14 playoffs, but Indiana can't, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
Indiana made the playoffs. Kirk Cinetti was able to talk all his stuff that he wanted to talk, and they're right back to it. So let's talk about the game. Those are our first reactions to everything. Let's talk about the game, though. So to me, I don't know about you, Zach, but to me, there were three big things in this game that happened with why Indiana was able to win. The three big things for me was that Indiana played excellent defense on
Mm-hmm.
second down to get Ohio State in third and long situations consistently. I believe the stat that they pulled up on the screen was like an average of third and 8.6 or something like that. Now, a lot of that has to do with Ohio State being in a third and 29 situation, but still, they were in third and long situations all day. That last drive, they were able to convert those, and you thought, oh my gosh, Ohio State's going to win this. But number two, it comes down to the special teams mistake. We had people saying it in the chat when we did our preview. It's going to come down to a special teams mistake, and Ohio State, Jaden Fielding, again, how many times in his career is he going to lose a game for Ohio State? And you know what? I don't think anybody should be mad at Jaden Fielding for that, because you know who kept trotting him out there year after year after year? Ryan Day. He kept trotting him out there. Even though they got a transfer kicker this past year, he said, no, I'm going to keep going with Jaden Fielding. Listen, I'm not trying to advocate for be upset with Ryan Day. He's one of the best coaches, if not the best coach in the country. All right. But you cannot continue to let Jaden Fielding trot out there. And then number three, the fact that Indiana did not have to do anything super special on defense to stop
Yep.
Ohio State. And I don't mean schematics wise. I mean, you saw Ohio State got beat with the deep ball multiple times because they could not have their safeties over the top because they had to play their safeties in the box. Indiana did not have to do that. Indiana was able to play their safeties back. They were able to play back altogether, and their linebackers are so fast. They trigger so well that even the underneath throws were not able to get you more than 3, 4, 5 yards, because that's how fast the linebackers of Indiana trigger. That's how fast they're able to get to them. Absolutely crazy that Indiana was able to make this happen. Those are my three things. Do you have anything that you'd like to add to? I mean, the red zone is probably the other big thing, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think Indiana rolled with the punches better, right? Omar Cooper goes down. Charlie Becker freaking went off tonight. Like he was arguably the best receiver in this game.
And he
6
was the
catches.
receiver that was lined up on Lorenzo Styles. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, yeah, and you made that point on Twitter, which I thought was good. But 6 catches, 126 yards, freshman. Like, I want to talk about big time players in big time games.
Charlie Becker's a freshman?
Is he? I think he's a freshman.
maybe a redshirt freshman. I think he transferred in from somewhere.
Oh no, he's sophomore. Sophomore.
Okay, so
Sophomore
he
from
transferred in.
Nashville,
Okay.
Tennessee. Gus made sure we knew that he was from Nashville all game long.
Gus
Love
also
you.
called Carnell Tate Tater. Gus,
He
no.
does that all the time. That's like his thing. I'm not saying
Sorry,
it's
go
a
ahead.
good thing, but that's his thing.
It's not a
Um,
good thing. It's not.
but yeah, I, I think the other thing too, like they rolled with the punches better, and like the running game wasn't great for Indiana, but it was effective enough. And I think to your point, like Ohio State's rushing game really was not good until really late third, early fourth quarter, and it was only Bo Jackson. Like Isaiah West had 3 carries for 4 yards. The other thing, and I mentioned this in the preview, I said if Indiana got at least 3 sacks, this game would be close. 6 sacks, I believe, in this game. I mean, it just was in peril all night long. And if they don't get pressure like that, like I think this game is different. But Indiana got tons of pressure in this game, and 5 sacks. It was 5 sacks, 9 tackles for loss. Isaiah Jones had 2 sacks. Hardy had a sack. Stephen Daly had a sack, and Landino had a sack. I mean, they were simulating pressures. They were confusing that offensive line all night. That to me, I think was the difference in the game was the way they were able to confuse Julian Sayin and the way they were able to pressure him.
Yeah, for sure. Totally. Blue Wolverine comes in with a $10 super chat. Appreciate you being here, Blue Wolverine. He says, Deja Vu 13-10. Oh, why'd you have to bring that up? And a missed field goal, IU. Well, 2 missed field goals against Michigan last year. IU even has a McCarthy on their team. I will give some credit to the McCarthy Magic, but I do think the majority of credit here goes to Indiana. Would you agree, Zach?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But I think we can label some McCarthy magic here. Man, what a finish. Thanks for the $10 there, Blue Wolverine.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
One other thing that we should mention as to what the red zone, right? Indiana, when it came down to it, was the touchdown to Elijah Surratt? Was that a yeah, that was a red zone touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
They scored when they needed to in the red zone. Ohio State did not, right?
Mm-hmm.
Failed 4th down conversion. They weren't able to get a touchdown. I think it's mid-second quarter. They had to settle for 3.
Mm-hmm.
Missed field goal. I mean, that's 3 opportunities where, and I remember saying it when we were watching it, 7-3. Like if Ohio State gets to 14, this game gets really uncomfortable. They never got to 14.
No, they weren't able to. Ohio State was 2 of 4 in the red zone, and Indiana was 3 of 4. I mean, you had the quarterback sneak that didn't work for Ohio State, and I mean, like I think there's gonna be some people that go at Ohio State for that, but I did think Ohio State got enough push with their offensive line. It's just Julian Sayin is not Will Howard. He cannot stay up like Will Howard can, and he wasn't able to stay up there. The missed field goal, but the credit goes to Indiana. They put Ohio State in those situations, and Ohio State just was not able to get the power rushing that they needed in this one to get the short yard situations. And you're right. Ohio State really only had Bo Jackson. You had a couple receptions by CJ Donaldson, but really the only running back you were able to have in this game was Bo Jackson. And I also think it's crazy that going into this game, everybody wanted to talk about how Indiana couldn't run the ball on, Iowa and Oregon and all these teams. And I presented the sack adjusted stats to you guys. I said, look, they've rushed for over 100 yards, sack adjusted, in every single one of these games. In this game, Indiana on paper only had 118 rushing yards, but sack adjusted because Ohio State had 3 sacks. It's 128, and that's about as many as they had, I believe, against Iowa. Sack adjusted. I've thrown away my paper. No, I have it right here. That is the most sack adjusted rushing yards they have against Iowa, Oregon, Penn State, and Wisconsin this season. So the people out there that said that Indiana wasn't going to be able to run the ball on Ohio State,
I'm
sorry,
guilty.
Zach.
I'm guilty.
Sorry, Zach. You were dead wrong, man. For Indiana, and some of it, not just their running backs, but like you said, variety. Mendoza was able to get some draws. He was able to move the chains a little bit too. I thought it was huge that they basically took Arvell Reese out of this game. Arvell Reese was really not even really a factor in this game. He chased
Yeah.
down Mendoza one time, but it was really the defensive line, the offensive line for Indiana was able to get to the second level and lock down Arvell Reese. Sonny Styles made some plays, definitely,
Yep.
but when you take Arvell Reese out of a game, it really changes everything for Ohio State's defense.
Yeah. The way this game went, Indiana flipped the script where they controlled the game. And that's the first time all season for Ohio State that they were not in control and they didn't really control the game. And I think there's been so much, let's talk about Ohio State a little bit, but I think Ohio State was so focused on, we got to let it rip. It's a fast track. They're so comfortable in trying to control and pound. Indiana just stayed who they were. We're like, we know who we are. We're efficient. Let's go. And again, I think that comes down to coaching, comes down to how they called this game. Oh, man, I can't. There are 13-10. Like Ohio State, Michigan last year it was not a good game by either team. This was a 13-10 game where I just thought both teams played their hearts out. Like it was good defense, two young quarterbacks, one who I think really, really shined throughout. And I think Julian Sayin, we saw, okay, this is his youth. It was not a good game. It was not a great game for him. I shouldn't say it wasn't a good game. I thought he got better as the game went, but so many props to Indiana for the way that they played.
I would say it was more of a bad game for Ohio State's offensive line than Julian Sayin.
Well, we'll go there in a minute. We'll go there in a minute.
Well, so and I wouldn't say it's all just on Ohio State's offensive line that they're bad or anything like that. Ohio State's offensive line has been good this season. They only allowed 7 sacks on the season, and they allowed 5 in this one. That's not because Ohio State's offensive line forgot how to block. Yes, they have a right guard position that's not been addressed all season long, but Tegra's also played better in some of these bigger game situations, so you've kind of been relying on that from him. In this one, you had Indiana take advantage of the offensive line for Ohio State multiple times. And as much as people want to say, I get the holding stuff, there was some pretty egregious holding on Indiana in this game. Ohio State's offensive line was holding too. This was a game where both lines were holding. Maybe one side had more than the other. Okay, I'm not going to come up here and act like one side was holding and one wasn't, because it's just not the case. But both sides were holding in this one. Kirk Kennedy was going crazy, just like Ryan Day was going crazy. I kind of wish they would call it more, but at the same time, I also like that they're just letting them play. So, it's catch-22. It is what it is.
Yeah. I appreciated that Joel Klatt called it out on the broadcast.
Yeah, he did a good job with that. So, Ryan Day was calling plays in this one. Did you think that too?
If he is, my criticism's going to shift then.
Well, I don't think Brian Hartline's going to be with him in the playoffs. Did you catch what Ryan Day said on the Big Ten Network earlier today?
No, I thought he was going to be with them the whole time.
So that's what I was told, and I tweeted that out there, and then that was also seconded by a couple other Ohio State beat reporters. But I was also told that if he doesn't, Keenan Bailey will be the offensive coordinator. And I was like, well, if he doesn't, okay, why are you saying that he will? And then on Big Ten Network today, Ryan Day said, and Hartline will be with us to finish out this game, or something like that. I need to pull the direct quote. I wrote it down somewhere, but it was like, to finish out this game is basically what he said, and I was like, that doesn't seem right. Why is it just finish out this game? Why isn't it finish out the season? And I'm wondering if maybe Ryan Day took back play calling because he knew that he was going to be calling plays in the playoffs.
If he took back play calling, he needs to kick the rust a little bit more, because I thought more than anything else that was the biggest weakness of this game, was offensive play calling.
How so?
I
definitely think the red zone had issues, and I can
red zone
see that.
I just felt that and I felt this for a while for Ryan Day. He telegraphs things. Like I was calling it, I was on the couch and multiple times I'm like, they're going to probably try to do this here. And that's what they did. And Indiana knew, which by the way, props to Bill Landis, who pointed out Indiana pretty much has had 3 weeks to prepare for this game. They had a bye, and then they had Purdue, and then they had Ohio State, and then they had Ohio State. And like, I'm pretty sure they weren't thinking, well, we'll face Oregon again, or we'll face Michigan. I'm pretty sure they were like, we're probably going to face Ohio State. They've had the prep time. And so regardless of what you think of whether like emotions played into this for Ohio State or whatnot, the reality is Indiana has had 3 essentially distraction-free weeks to study Ohio State. And Ohio State has had to deal with the Michigan win, the loss of Brian Hartline, trying to sign Chris Henry, and keep their recruiting class intact. I know Indiana had to do that too, but it wasn't nearly as crazy.
Yeah, but Indiana isn't as high profile as Ohio State. When you're as high profile as Ohio State, you have some of these guys that get the big offers. Like, I mean, I don't even want to tell you how much money Chris Henry Jr. was offered by Texas and Oregon, which, again, if you know me, I am not somebody that's going to come on here and bash Oregon for that, because I say, if you got the money, go use it. Go get the best players out there, because that's the game right now.
Yeah. But I say all that that's not to denigrate the loss. I just think, to your point, Indiana was sharper. They were faster to the ball. And I just think you could tell if Ryan Day was calling the plays or if Brian Hartline was calling plays. I don't know who was, but it just kind of felt like it was business as usual. And they kind of just assumed we're going to be able to go deep and we're going to be able to run on a fast track. And it's like, you should rethink this.
I do want to push back just a little bit, and I'm not saying you're wrong, but I do want to push back just because I do think that if that's the case, there could be issues for Indiana in the playoffs. I think Bryant Haynes is the best defensive coordinator in the country after this performance that he was able to put on. And I think that his players obviously added to that as well. And it wasn't just Haynes. I mean, there were plays made by some of the Indiana players. Like, how many times did Hardy, I think it was at least 2 or 3 times, Hardy not just made plays, but he also stopped Bo Jackson from getting some of these runaway runs that would have just completely, put Ohio State in a much, it would put Ohio State in a much better situation. But Hardy and Aiden Fisher made a couple too. Like, these guys were just able to make the play at the right moment in time to be able to stop Ohio State. It felt like Ohio State had opportunities here and there, but they just weren't able to make them, whether it was because Ohio State, flustered or the Indiana player made the play. I think more often than not, the Indiana player made the play. But before I get your comments on that, I do want to bring up Blue Wolverine. Another $10 super chat. Thank you, Blue Wolverine. Said, did anyone else hear Gus at the end give him the trophy? He said real slow before the break. I did hear him scream like that's the Heisman winner, but I did not hear the give him the trophy. Did you hear that, Zach?
I didn't, but I approve this message.
Yeah, I mean, Fernando Mendoza should definitely win the Heisman trophy.
Yeah. If it's Pavia, like, I think, well, if it's Pavia, screw the award and just win the national championship. Like, that's just, it'd be stupid. But
so we'll have some more kind of like detailed but like less reaction stuff. Like, we're giving you just kind of like raw reactions right now, right? So we're going to give you some more details Sunday night, because we'll talk about this game again and obviously what it means. But I do think we have to talk about the Heisman really fast. I think a lot of people are going to look at this and say, well, Fernando Mendoza, look at the stats. He didn't actually have that good of a game. 15 of 23, 222 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Like, and by the way, both Julian Sayin and Fernando Mendoza both had 151 QB rating in this game. They both played fantastic. It's just Julian Sayin did not get the plays in the moments when he needed them, like Fernando Mendoza did. Julian Sayin got the big play to Jeremiah Smith, which, by the way, how much different would this game be if Julian Sayin led Jeremiah Smith and Jeremiah Smith kept running and got a touchdown on that instead of having to stop,
Yep.
So, but let's talk about Fernando Mendoza. The stats do not show that he had a fantastic game, but I even tweeted out there like it just felt like every time Indiana needed a throw, needed a play. I mean, it was like, oh my gosh, he made it, or oh my gosh, the receiver made that play. Whatever it was, they made it when they needed it, time and time again, and that's displayed in the
Ice in his
third
veins.
downs. Indiana was 6 of 13 on third downs. I mean, give people the case for why Mendoza should win the Heisman, even though the stats were not necessarily anything astronomical in this one.
I mean, he just led his team to the number 1 seed in the whole tourney. And he did it for a team that last year got ran off the field by the 2 national championship participants. And he just beat the defending national champions in a split crowd, getting popped in the most highest of stakes. And now he has wins not just over the number 1 team in the country, but the number 5 team in the country at their place. Right. So, and he did it like it was because of his performance. Yes, the defense, you have to credit the defense. But if Mendoza's not playing, are we really sure that they're able to keep Ohio State's defense on the field as long as they are? Like, are they getting those long passes to Charlie Becker? Like this, people are going to look at the 13 and think this, this was not a good offense. This was not, dare I say, Georgia, Alabama, where both offenses sucked and they stunk. Especially
part of it was good defense, but it was largely bad offense by both of them.
Yeah. But Georgia or like Indiana, they got out of jams. Like they were often had bad field position. They were able to get to the 50, which was huge.
Sorry.
That's all right. So they're punting and pinning Ohio State back and forcing Ohio State into long fields. Able to, he did all the little things right. And some people will say, well, is that really Heisman worthy? And my answer is, did he just win the Big Ten? Did he just beat the number 1 team in the country? Did he just earn his team the number 1 seed? Yeah, give him the Heisman. That's worthy of it.
Well, and it goes back exactly to what something that Chris Fowler said, and we're going to transition into the playoff talk here. Like I said, we'll have more on the game tomorrow night, but these are just kind of our raw, kind of instant reactions to it. But it goes back to something Chris Fowler said tonight. He said, you got teams like Texas, which lost to Ohio State early, took a non-conference game, tough game, won the stat battle, but lost on the scoreboard. I'm sorry. What is the goal of the game? Is it to have more yards or is it to win the game? Right now it's to win the game, and that's what Fernando Mendoza did. So let's transition. Or go ahead.
I was just say Juck on Bucks tweeted it out, and I just replied, translation, I didn't watch the game.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like
I don't know what else to say.
People that make that argument about Ohio State, Texas, I'm like, Ohio State dominated that game, and they played it to their strengths, which was smart.
Yeah.
Don't at me with that stat battle crap. Like, it's stupid.
Precisely.